I'm certain that part of the reason why you are as many episodes deep into your podcast as you are is because you take something from it. Like you were saying, right? There's something enriching. There's something even sometimes exciting about the conversations that you're having that keeps you going, right? And if you're going to be of use to the world in that way, right? Like if you're going to continue to put it in those biblical terms, serve the least of these, right? You can only be expected to do that for so long before you're just exhausted. So if there's not something that's sort of filling that tank in the process, and I see so many organizations and causes and whatever, whether they're fighting for or advocating for liberty or whatever it might be, trying to sort of like stick all these square peg people in round holes, right? Like, I know you're an artist, but we really need somebody doing our bookkeeping. It's like, no, what are you talking about? This is going to last like a minute before people are just upset at each other. And
you make a great point, and I think about this a lot, and I probably have said this on my podcast multiple times. Like, we all know the Holocaust was awful. Why do we know this? Well, partly the Nazis, they filmed everything like idiots, unlike the Soviets and the Chinese communists who, they buried everything that they did, all their crimes. But also, Steven Spielberg made, Schindler's List, and if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I'll never watch it again, but you need to watch it. And I think a lot of us are hoping that some artist like Spielberg or somebody else, some musician, somebody, makes the reality of what happens when you don't have liberty real to people, and they associate with art, like you have to give them a little bit of what they call it, not really sugar coating, but you have to give them a little bit of was a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down.
Sure,
yes. Yeah, you do need that a little bit. And my wife was right. People aren't going to listen to a lecture probably, but they might listen to a song that's about some issue, or they might watch a movie where they get a little bit of entertainment, but there is some point being made. And it's really encouraging because there was a time you couldn't hardly find any movies that talked about at least the atrocities of the Marxism or socialism. But you're starting to see them more, and the productions are getting better. Yeah. This is something that we also probably share with the Christian world. Most Christian movies were awful. They're getting better. They're starting to learn the technique and all that, and so are some of these films that are coming out. Like I think, for example, like A Bitter Winter, which is about the Ukrainian famine that Stalin engineered. And also Mr. Jones, which is about that same subject. But top-notch films. In Cuba, of course, Hitchcock made a film called Topaz. I don't know if you ever saw that. That's the only film I can think of for the longest time until like Andy Garcia got involved with For Love or Country, and then was it Lost City and some other things. You know? But anyway, I totally agree with you that more of that needs to be happening. But you got to find the balance between like how do you make something that people want to see, and it's got to be a little bit entertaining, but also not making light of the subject. Right.
Well, and even if it's entertainment, it's interesting that you bring up the Oscar Schindler or Schindler's List example. Right. There is, of course, that Spielberg. That's what he brings to the table. It also, I'm sure, was a massive commercial success. Yeah. Which matters. I mean, people don't want to accept. I think everybody wants everything to be this sort of like totally benevolent. I get nothing from. But that doesn't do anything for anybody. It's really. Right. But even the story itself, I think that there's is its own kind of example where Schindler. I've never seen him interviewed, actually, come to think of it, but I have to think that in that situation, part of what drives an Oscar Schindler is that the successes were not an abstraction, right? Even in the movie, the way it's portrayed is that he's hungry to get the numbers up because there's this very concrete, like, he can see the results of what he's doing, and that's its own kind of fuel, right? Rather than being told to just sort of like spin your wheels and trust that somewhere on the other end of this equation somebody is more free. If you can find ways that are where the success is measurable, right? And you have a little bit of that too. I mean, you see your students come out of with a new understanding, or you see the numbers on your podcast, and it doesn't have to be huge. but
right.
that anybody is listening makes it feel like it wasn't fruitless.
Yeah, that's the hope. And I to go back to something you said, I mean, there is a frustration because, it's never going to end, and you do get burned out from that because there's always going to be more people being indoctrinated this way and that, or more countries falling to dictatorships or something. But it's like whack-a-mole, and that's kind of a fun game as long as you understand that those moles are going to keep coming. And that's just
you get your little tickets out of the thing in the bottom, all that stuff.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody play whack-a-mole and say like, "Why do the moles keep coming? When's this going to end?"
And yet people keep playing.